T-Dog, J-Boy, and me, I'm Lugs. Our pride and joy is pumping our mugs. Be careful, kids, it could get rough. We're flipping our lids on sports and other stuff.
Welcome to Sport Weasel Central. I'm Lugs.
I'm J-Boy.
I'm T-Dog.
Yes, sir, fellas. Happy New Year, 2024. Can you believe it? We made it somehow. I can't believe it myself, but we did. Hey, it's crunch time. It's just the way the NFL wants it, isn't it? Right up to the final game. That would be game 272 this weekend. So many playoff scenarios are still in play. But we're back. Sports and other stuff, better than ever. Lugs, I saw you on the sideline of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, looking good in Orlando there. Sweet. Did you see that Pop-Tart mascot jump into that giant toaster and come out toasted? Kansas State players were chowing down on the world's first edible mascot. Did you get a piece of that, Lugs, that strawberry Pop-Tart?
I did not. I'm sorry I missed out on that. That sounds great. You know. But this weekend for me in the NFL was quarterback central, was it not? I got to say, Lamar has to have clinched MVP. That would have been the highlight. And the low light for me is our boy was finally benched there in Denver after whatever failed. Yeah, Russell Wilson failed 2 seasons. But I'd like to celebrate Lamar a little bit. He finally has some receivers. The defense is playing well, and he's obviously doing well. I don't think they'll play him this weekend, but I do believe it would be tough for anybody to top him now for the MVP this year. What do you think, Dog?
Well, you are right. I believe it just came out on ESPN that the Ravens are going to sit Lamar Jackson versus the Steelers on the Saturday night game. So
okay.
He is done for the year. And, I think you're right. He should be. I know his numbers are definitely underwhelming in comparison to his first MVP, but again, numbers sometimes get too much into it. He has, even though maybe he hasn't scored as many touchdowns, they divvied up the ball more and definitely got the Gus Bus more involved, particularly on the back half of the season in terms of just, getting those rushing touchdowns where Lamar usually would get a few of those. It feels like they kind of eased up on Lamar in the red zone and, goal to go situations to run him. They'd much rather, smash Gus Bus with their 300-pound fullback leading the way. And kind of like you, it's just fun to see like his maturation. And again, they were banged up. Don't get me wrong, the Dolphins, but like the Dolphins still have a very good defense. And the way he surgically kind of carved them up, that first touchdown pass to Justice Hill was just perfect in between the safety and corner, that kind of like honey hole in between them. And, some of the other touchdowns, I mean, they were still great plays by him, but that Isaiah Likely touchdown where he one paws it and then grabs it on, I believe it was a 4th down before the half. So I think put him up like 28-13, I believe at the time. And just really impressive all the way around. And, I think to set that up or one of the big drives where I think the game turned, Roquan had a spectacular catch. Actually, all the Ravens, defense and offense, they all had crazy catches because the Gus Bus was set up by Odell Beckham's great catch, like at the 3-yard line. So, all the Ravens balling out, and there's a reason why they clinched the first seed. They are the best team, both in terms of defense and, like Lug said, like Lamar is just playing at a very high level. And, even though maybe physically not as awe-inspiring as his last one, his acumen and his skill level has been elevated. So I think in ways maybe this is a better season because he's playing more within the system and they're not asking him to try to do it all by himself. He he can lean on others.
But some of the pundits, the schmoes, the critics all say if he doesn't win a playoff game, at least 2 of them, what good is he? How do you guys feel about that? Has he cemented himself legit, or does he need to win some big games and put that all to bed?
I think that last game, he stepped into professional, totally quarterback range, not just a guy with unbelievable skills playing against lesser opponents. So, yeah, I think now Lamar legitimately has stepped up into the ranks that of the elite. There's no doubt for me about that. And he finally has enough around him to where he doesn't have to be the hero on every play.
Well, the thing is kind of like what maybe Lugs is getting to. Like the last 2 games, he's played 2 great defenses. He's played the 49ers, and then they had to fly all the way across, back. I know it was a home game, but still they had to go from the West Coast, I believe in Santa Clara, and fly all the way back to Baltimore. And I think the game was a tighter contest than what I don't know. It sounds ridiculous saying this, but if you kind of look at it right at the half, it was kind of close, and then the last 2 minutes of half, it avalanche for Baltimore, and just Dolphins just couldn't do anything about it. But it was a competitive game. But I'm just saying how he has played against top level defenses and top level teams. And this also goes back to when they played the Lions at Baltimore. The one thing is kind of going back to your thing, Jay Boy. I don't think they have to worry about it because the way they've played at home this year, Baltimore is going to get to the Super Bowl.
All right.
I know it's not crazy talk since they're the 1 seed, and they're definitely chalk. But like the way they've shellacked good teams at home, it feels like they're going to make it to the Super Bowl.
Wow. Lugs, your thoughts on that? That's kind of a bold early on prediction for T-Dog here.
Well, I think he's definitely on the right path because let's face it, like Kansas City, they're backing into the playoffs. Really, they're not what they once were. So yeah, I think Baltimore is the class of everybody. I think it'll be, dare I say it, Baltimore and San Francisco. That may be just your most Captain Obvious look, but that's what I got to say.
To be fair to your point, Lugs, it is Captain Obvious, but I just think all the other teams, I'm just saying all the other teams around, to be fair, they've shown enough warts where I'm not saying there aren't things you can pick apart on Baltimore and San Francisco, but clearly their deficiencies are a lot less noticeable than pretty much any other team. So I agree with you. It might be chalk and chalk, but I'll ask you all this. Here's another question. I think the most dangerous team that is the complete wild card, and we don't even have this type of team every year. Like it happens every so often. The one team I worry about maybe upsetting Baltimore before they get to Super Bowl. I think the only team I'm really worried about is the Cleveland Browns.
Agree. That was the choice I was going to make. Lugs.
Oh, my man, Joe Flacco. I gotta love
How about
Flacco. It was the weekend of the old guys, Mason Rudolph, Joe Flacco. I mean, come on. And Mike Tomlin, again, breaks 500. It's an amazing record. But, yeah, Cleveland, that defense is legit. I mean, and Flacco, I got to give it to him. I saw a couple of passes of his. It wasn't, a 50-year-old player slinging the ball. It was a guy that still had some zip in his arm. So,
all right, so let's flip the switch. NFC, what team, if you're picking your Niners, going chalk, as they say, it sounds like both of you are. T-Dog, I think you are. Who scares you over there? Yeah. Who scares you in the NFC?
I think this is a harder one. I think I would say just the way they played, even though they lost this game on Saturday, I would say Detroit, because I know it's not a lot to go on. It's mainly because of this. Detroit's defense played well against a fairly good offense in Dallas, albeit not being able to stop CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, they held them below 30 points. Again, like currently we're looking at Philly. Philly is just in complete nosedive.
Tank, right?
I don't
They're in
see
the
them
tank.
turning it around.
Yep.
Green Bay
Won't make the
just
playoffs.
Their defense
Won't make
their
the playoffs.
defense is very and they might not make the playoffs. To be fair to what J Boy says, and then so I would probably say Detroit, maybe the Rams, but I just feel that defense
Okay.
is very very suspect.
All right, all the
I think
wise guys
those
are picking the Rams. Why is everybody jumping on the Rams as the hot team? Why?
Because I think that their offense is finally healthy for once, and they've got that kid's name that I could never remember, Picayune or something like that.
Puka Nacua.
Nakua.
Puka Nacua. He's. I mean, they're all healthy, and so I think. I mean, if there's a close game, Stafford has the skill and the old guy acumen to pull it off still. So I would say them. Yeah, I wouldn't want to play them if I were one of the other teams.
Who else scares you in the NFC if it's the Niners all the way?
I hate to say it, but Dallas could be tough. You know, they don't have a running game. But with CeeDee Lamb, as long as he's healthy, and Cooks showed us something too. But that Detroit-Dallas game, Dan Campbell lost that game. You take those field goals. You do. You don't screw around with that kind of nonsense. You know, that tough boy, we're going to beat you up kind of nonsense. I'm sorry. You take those points, and they would have won it going away. No penalty would have mattered.
But the man is consistent, and he does that every time. So win by it, lose by it, he's there. T-Dog.
Right, but that's like saying a dog might learn from running a parked car. You know.
I like that one. I like that.
I agree with you all on both fronts. I will also I will agree with Lugs that Dallas can. I just worry about. I mean, I guess they're similar to Detroit. There's parts of their defense I worry about. I know it's crazy to say as dominant as Dallas defense looked at parts this year, but like teams with a running attack and teams that, you know, can really attack the linebackers, because if you kind of look at their linebacker core for the most part, it's kind of suspect with Dallas. You can run on them, and that's like San Francisco, the Rams, you know, Detroit, you know, Philly, if they really wanted to, could be a great running team. They just seem not to be interested in doing that. But, like, that's what I'm saying. All these teams that are going to be in the playoffs, except for it looks like, you know, Tampa or New Orleans maybe, like, these are teams that can run the ball. And, like, that's their main Achilles heel.
But there's another one for Dallas, and you forgot what it is. They're kryptonite. Clock management.
What?
The boy cannot manage the clock. Lugs is Twinkie-eating coach there, cannot manage the clock.
And it also Lugs also pointed out the other thing is, I know he was great last year, and I still think maybe physically he's not right from the injury he suffered in the 49ers loss last year in the playoffs. But you know, their running game is just not what it should be, and you know, it's kind of like, well, we'll probably get into Kansas City. I mean, we're in the last week of the regular season, guys. Like, they are what they are. Like, they're not going to make this drastic adjustment going into the playoffs.
Right.
They are what they are. Like, Dallas can't run the ball efficiently and can be ate up on the ground. That being said, to be fair to Lugs' point, they have a phenomenal pass rusher in Micah Parsons. You know, Dak, you know, I know he's cooled off a little bit, but Dak still has had one of his best years. CeeDee Lamb at times has been absolutely unstoppable. So, like, they have pieces where I can see them making a deep run. It's not going to be easy going through San Francisco and some of the other teams. And just like Detroit, you know, I kind of agree with J Boy and also Luggs, I like that he sticks to his mantra, but it felt like once they went, 7, they got the penalty and they were backed up, and luckily got the the offsides to get it back to like the 3-yard line. He should have kicked the extra point just to send it into overtime. And
True, agreed.
I say that though, in the play that they ended up losing on. And again, Goff has played well, so I don't want to completely kill him. But the reason why there's still hesitance and completely believing in Goff is if that ball was thrown correctly, Mitchell gets into the end zone and they score the 2 points. That was a poorly thrown ball, and if you really look at it, he didn't really have pressure. He just was too quick with making that throw. So, the ball
he got happy
forward.
feet. His feet weren't under him.
Yeah. And again, this is the difference between Goff and like Lamar. Like on the Lamar, what ended up being the likely pass, if you look, his feet weren't under him. But that's the difference between the arm talent of Lamar and the arm talent of Goff. And again, like I'm not killing Goff because Goff is a good quarterback. But like this is why there's always going to be chatter about maybe upgrading from Goff. It's not that he is bad. It's just that when you compare him to like the upper echelon guys, there's things that are lacking is what I'll say.
And isn't this why, so this late in the season, don't you have to finesse your game and change it a little bit? Like learn how to manage the clock, like take the extra point, like kick the field goal and get off your crap so you can win the game. I mean, you have to make adjustments, don't you?
Yeah.
If you're smart, but
Go ahead. You got a minute on McCarthy. Go ahead. Man. Just let it go. Just let go. McCarthyisms. Go. Ready? Go.
I was just going to say, you're smart. You do change when it's necessary. Otherwise, you look like when you fail.
Agreed. Okay, so update. I need an update on this. Where is Christian McCaffrey? What's with the injury? Is are we getting blown smoke? Is he good? Is he going to be? Are they going to be all full speed ahead?
Shanahan came out and said it was a minor calf injury, so I don't know what that means, but it's okay. So he will not be playing, their last game of the season, and since they have already locked it up, I doubt they'll play a lot of guys. If anybody plays at all, they're not going to play the full game this last week of the season. But he'll have essentially 3 weeks off.
Yeah,
right? This
right.
week, the bye week, and then the game. So I think McCaffrey should be fine. But again, sometimes coach speak kind of covers up like how bad an injury really is. It's like, oh, it's a minor calf sprain, and it might be like a significant tear that they're just gonna dope them up like a racing horse and just be like, all right, just go out there and do your thing.
Yeah. So one question about that, this whole resting people, not playing 3-week mini bye, big bye, full bye. How do you feel about that? Do you think the edge can come off a pro athlete in 2.5 weeks? Lamar, McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, anybody like that?
I think basically the main thing that I think is, I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think we've seen times where I think, like the team rested and they came out flat-footed and lost. I believe one or two of those like great Peyton Manning Colts years that ended up happening to them. I think in general, like a great team, like I think what Baltimore and essentially San Francisco have kind of painted themselves out to be this late in the season, I think they can rest most of their players and they should be fine. And particularly with Baltimore, they've already lost, J.K. Dobbins in week 1, and they lost, Mark Andrews, who I believe might be eligible coming into the playoffs.
Oh, that'd be sweet, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and other parts of their defense have been in and out, and their left tackle has been in rotation. Stanley most of the year, yeah, he hasn't been right, so it'll be good for a lot of their players to get rest. To be honest with you, and similar with the 49ers, parts of their offensive line have been kind of banged up. I love my man Deebo Samuels, but we know Deebo Samuels can always get kind of nicked up a little bit, so it's good for him to get some R&R. But, I think both those teams are of that cut where I don't think that if they rest everyone, I think they should be fine coming into the divisional round.
Lugs, I think we lost you. You were off getting some more of that Pop-Tart from the Pop-Tart Bowl. How do you feel about resting guys or playing guys or whatever?
I think at this point, like it's been said before, they are what they are. I don't think that they're going to change that much with some rest. In fact, they may improve just to physically get there. So I don't have a problem with that. And also, it gives you, if you're a player, it gives you an impetus to play harder in the second half of the season to be able to know that you're going to get some time to just heal up. Because, at this point, they're all busted up. They're just going off of just grit.
This just in, Aaron Rodgers will start Sunday. All right, what else do you want to hit upon? So that's kind of the highlights of what we're looking at. What do you want to hit on now? 20 minutes past the hour, and it's a chilly 28 degrees.
What do you want to hit on, dog? Go ahead.
I guess a few things. First off, the Panthers thankfully locking up the first overall pick for the Bears by just completely just eating the bit, putting up a big old goose egg at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had been spiraling. I believe they were on a 4-game losing streak. Is that right, J-Boy?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so they were on a 4-game losing streak. And then, as great as some of the things that happened on the field this week, one of the great things that didn't happen on the field but in that stadium was David Tepper getting mad at a Jaguars fan and throwing a drink on him, just being the petulant man-child that he is.
And being fined $300,000 fined. $300,000.
Yeah. Which for a billionaire, I mean, what does that even equal?
$280.
Like $5? Okay.
Yeah.
$280.
Yeah.
And then on the other side too of that thing is Chicago with at their last home game, just blowing out the Atlanta Falcons, and Justin Fields playing well, and connecting with DJ Moore for over 150 yards. Herbert giving up 100, rushing for 100, and him high-fiving everyone on the fields. I'm asking you all, should they? And it's funny, you see all these talking heads now, not all of them, but they're all like, Bears need to keep Justin Fields.
I told you so. I told you it was going to be that way.
Yeah.
Lugs, how do you feel about that?
How do you all feel?
Now you got to push Fields out. That experiment doesn't work. You take Caleb Williams, send Fields to Atlanta for a second and third round pick. That would be my thing.
Okay, here's a little counterpoint. Here's the chatter: is that Caleb Williams does not want to play in Chicago. He wants to play in D.C., Washington. That's where he's from. He has said as much, and he says, if I go to Chicago, I'm going to pull an Eli, and I'm going to force them to trade me because I will not play there. What do you think of that, T-Dog? Because if that's the case, why wouldn't you take Marvin Harrison Jr. as your one pick?
Well, I think they trade down, actually, honestly. If that is true, I'm not saying it is true. I will say this. Just say that. Let's not say that's true. I agree with Lugs. I've said this, and again, two ways can be true. I like Justin Fields. I do think he has developed. I think he's gotten better as a passer. And, I think every time you see him interviewed and stuff, you like the intangibles where I do think he is a leader. I do think he faces a lot of harsh criticism, and he faces it head on where, again, not to compare to Trubisky let the noise get to him. And I think it really did bother him, and it started to affect the way he plays. I don't think that has happened with Justin Fields. That being said, even though he has progressed as a passer, I still think going into finishing year 3, he's not where you want to be, and you're going to get close to paying him. So in just this roster that they've kind of constructed, you can't keep it together if you're paying this quarterback, let's say like $200 million or whatever. I don't know what it'll end up being for Justin Fields. I just think when I watch Caleb Williams, probably like Lugs, I feel like he is more of a fascinating prospect. I think he definitely has that natural feel and kind of sense where players are, and I think he gets the ball off a lot quicker, and I think he's quicker to process than Fields is coming out. I'm not saying maybe now, but coming out of the draft. But now going in with your thing, Jay Boy, let's say he's not willing to play. I think the Bears trade down. I think the Bears trade down and get, even probably more assets than last year's haul of the first overall pick, and just build around Fields. And, hopefully, maybe you get that pick. Maybe if Fields doesn't work out, and if they were going to year 4, they get a quarterback maybe next year or the year after.
All right, so if you watch Sunday Night Football where the Packers shellacked the Vikings and Chris Collinsworth already hung a gold jacket on Jordan Love, he's in love with Love, and now it's this Sunday, and the Bears, let's say it, they beat the Packers, and they can. Either team could win. Defenses are good. Mm-hmm. And now, all of a sudden, Justin Fields has done what so many Bears quarterbacks haven't done, and he beat the stinking Packers, and he kept them out of the playoffs. What do you think if he beats the Pack and beats them handily?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously will have a better shot at remaining in a Bears uniform. If indeed Caleb Williams forces his way out, then, yeah, I think, Dog, you're right. They can get themselves. This is a good left tackle draft, a good one. There's lots of good ones. There are several good receivers, and there is really a good number of quarterbacks as well. So, the chances, I would give it 70-30 that he would still remain because they can work some deals. And if they got him a running back and a couple more of offensive linemen, yeah, he could make it. He could make it work. He's not Lamar talented. I don't think he's shown any of that. But he's Lamar light to me.
Lamar light.
I don't think he's anywhere close to as polished a passer as Lamar was. I think, again, like the thing we all talk about, and maybe it's because we were in the era where we got to see a lot of his games. Like I think Lamar was always underrated how refined a passer I think he was coming out. I'm not saying he didn't have things he had to work on.
Oh, completely agree. He was not.
He was much better a passer than what a lot of people saw. Everyone always saw those highlights where he was running, where he ran a pro-style offense in college. So that's why he was, I think, ahead of the curve where, again, Ohio State has a lot of success, but I think their offense is more what you would say is a college-y offense than a pro-style offense. I don't think he has to do a lot of line checks and, for the most part, I'm not saying that they don't have progressions, but their wide receivers have been so dominant these last few years in Ohio State. You don't have to really process after the first read.
Just turn and burn and catch the ball, right?
Yeah. So, I guess some of the other games, from this week that I just want to kind of hit on is Steelers. The thing I find fascinating is I think at times, I'm not going to speak for you all, I've taken shots at Mason Rudolph, but again, to a lesser extent than Baker Mayfield and definitely Joe Flacco, but still, what a renaissance for Mason Rudolph.
All he does is win.
Starts, right?
He just wins.
And so much so that Kenny Pickett, this last game of the season against Baltimore, he will not be played. The starter will be and then I don't know if you heard the chatter in terms of Mark Madden, who is a personality in the Pittsburgh area. They were going to, they started Mason Rudolph against the Seahawks this Sunday. Pickett was well enough to be the backup, but he didn't want to be the backup. So that's why they had Trubisky as the backup for that game. And it's like, all right, Kenny Pickett, I understand you being bad, but you haven't done enough to.
Yeah, that's not going to get you your next job right there.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know, it's very, very odd. And then just, Jarrett Stidham in his debut against the Chargers, he played well. And, again, to Chargers at this point, Keenan Allen was out. Josh Palmer was out. Eckler has played most this year, but he has been a shell of himself. They had the Easton Stick. Everyone knew this was going to, just be – Chargers are just playing out to the end. But the one I really want to talk about, and because, again, we kind of talk about them free-falling, the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes, sir.
Winning 35-31. And they also helped lock up the Bears getting the first overall pick because they were the one in contention. And, again, I'll eat crow because I was very kind of critical of the Jonathan Gannon hire by Arizona, and I know their record isn't well, but I think we can all agree I think they've played hard, even though like their roster's not where it needs to be on offense and defense. I think they're going to have some really good draft capital coming into this 2024 draft, and I think like. I'm not saying Kyler is going to be legit, but at least it feels like right now Kyler is vibing with this coaching staff,
the coach.
which is all you want. Which is all you want. The coach and the quarterback being on the same page. So, and I do buy into. Maybe I'm going to eat crow on this. I do buy into like they do believe he is their quarterback. So maybe they get Marvin Harrison. Or Neighbors, or one of those other great receivers, or another tackle to go with the tackle they took last year. But like, I really do believe them that they're going to build around Kyler Murray. So, and just on the other side, we kind of said all year the Eagles are one of the most talented teams, and they started hot where they didn't lose the game, but they always had looked suspect. And just this last kind of month of the season, they've kind of fallen off. And kind of shown like all the deficiencies they've had on defense, how simplistic and like their offense is. I mean, when you're holding on to Julio Jones scoring 2 touchdowns against you to try to keep the fight, it's just like, all right, this is not a good situation for you right now. So.
Absolutely right. Hey, Lugs, do you have a little sports of yesteryear ready to roll for us today?
Yes, sir.
All right, standing by. Here comes that famous theme from the olden times. Sports of yesteryear. He's our man in the field. He's our man in the street. He even knows Justin Fields by his first name, Justin. Here's Lugs. Come on in, Lugs. Tell us.
All right, 1920, Boston Red Sox owner Harry Frazee announced his agreement to sell Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees, thus starting the 84-year curse of the Bambino. 1971, first AFC Championship, Memorial Stadium, Baltimore. The Colts beat Raiders 27-17. Also in the first NFC Championship, Kezar Stadium, San Francisco, Dallas Cowboys beat San Francisco 49ers 17-10. 1983, Dallas running back Tony Dorsett sets NFL record with 99-yard rush in the Cowboys' loss 31-27 to the Minnesota Vikings. 1993, in what's called the comeback, quarterback Frank Reich leads Buffalo Bills back from a 32-point deficit to defeat the Houston Oilers 41-38 in overtime in a wild card playoff game, the greatest comeback ever in NFL history. And finally, to show the wide spectrum of sports of yesteryear, 2010, Phil Taylor successfully defends his PDC World Darts title with a 7-3 victory over Simon Whitlock of Australia in the final in London. Taylor's 13th PDC and 15th overall World Championship. That's it for this edition of Sports of Yesteryear.
That is some fascinating stuff there, Lugs. Okay, so a question about the darts. You know when you flush the toilet in Australia, it goes the wrong way, right? Counterclockwise. So was there some advantage or disadvantage because of that with the twirling of the dart from our
well,
Aussie
not
friend?
really, because the Australian was left-handed anyway.
Oh.
So that didn't matter.
Counteracting.
I think my favorite thing for that is Phil Taylor the Bill Russell of darts, or is Bill Russell the basketball player, or the Phil Taylor?
It could go either way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that could go either way. And then the stadium in San Francisco threw me off. What was the name of that stadium?
That was Kezar. It was the old Kezar Stadium, which became Candlestick, which is something else now. I've forgotten. I think that they go to Santa Clara.
I think it's a parking lot.
Play.
Kezar.
Kezar Stadium.
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking live, Brent Musburger. You're looking live at a sold-out Kezar Stadium. All right, what else we got?
Go back. I was just going to say, if we were back in the old days with Cleveland, it could be Kozar plays Kezar. You know,
I love that.
Okay.
And I think you had that Frank Reich tidbit about the comeback. The Vikings beat that last year, didn't they? Beating the Colts, coming back from 33. Wasn't that right? And that was the big deal about that game last year against the Colts. All right, never mind. All right, so what else do you want to get? Oh, I wanted to, a little bit later, Lugs, we'll talk about all your losses in the college football playoff. But until then, T-Dog, what else?
I guess to tie it in a bow. In terms of divisions, still kind of coming down to the wire.
We got some stuff.
Who had been up and down. You have for most of the year, it seemed like Derek Carr was going to get in fights with his offensive line and Chris Olave and some of the other wide receivers, and they just been up and down. They go to the Bucs, who were pretty red hot.
Yeah,
and they kind of they took it to them. So entering the end of the season, Tampa is still in pole position, but New Orleans is knocking on the door. So that's still up in the air. The AFC South is still up in the air. With the Jags haven't locked in winning the division. Indy's at 9-7. Houston's at 9-7. Indy plays Houston, so there's potential for whoever wins that game, I believe will sneak in.
And the Texans are still technically alive.
Yeah, so I mean that's like those are all fascinating. The craziest situation to me is Buffalo. If Buffalo beats Miami, they're the second seed. If Buffalo loses and Pittsburgh wins, which I think we all agree Pittsburgh should win with probably with Ravens probably resting a lot of their players, Buffalo's out.
Right.
So we're talking about the swinging pendulum.
Two seed or out. Your choice. Yeah.
And I think we all agree, even though they've had some great weeks, that you look at what they did against New England last Sunday, and everyone who's like, "Oh, we got to watch out for Buffalo. We got to watch out for Buffalo." I don't know. New England's offense did what New England's offense has done. They shot themselves in the foot like 3 to 4 times. They still were within punching distance of winning that game. So I don't know what's up with Buffalo, and that's why I don't buy into as great as Josh Allen is. I think we all agree he should be up there with Lamar and Purdy for the MVP. Obviously, he shouldn't win. But a lot of the deficiencies with the team, I think for the most part, have not been him.
You live by Josh, you die by Josh. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other, tidbits from this last week or going into the last week of the season, Lugs or J-Boy, that you all have?
Did we lose?
I was just going to say, if New Orleans doesn't win, Dennis Allen is gone. So that's a must win for him. The Chargers, Tennessee.
Vrabel.
Vrabel wants out, so they can move Hoodie out and move Vrabel in at New England.
Oh,
well, I like that actually.
And just to get back to the Eagles, they've been losing ever since they made Matt Patricia their defensive coordinator. That's all I'm saying there. They've been patricianed to death. So
patricianed.
I think, Josh McDaniel and Matt Patricia, they should go and be coaches for the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Whoa.
So,
all right, well, we've got a minute here. Let's just talk about it. So here's what we know in the AFC. 3 spots are still available. We've got Ravens 1, Dolphins 2, Chiefs 3, Browns 5. So who do you like? Do you think the Jags, Bills, and Colts make it in, or do you like some other combo in the AFC?
I could be wrong. I believe just the way the Tennessee has played down the stretch, Jags are not locked, but essentially with the Jags playing Tennessee, I'd say Jags are going to win that one. They're locked.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And you like the Bills and the Colts?
I don't like either one of those teams, actually.
Well, the Colts are fascinating because I think, again, one of the best hires in this cycle has been Shane Steichen.
Yeah.
But again, another week removed from his concussion, I just think C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins should be healthy. I just think Houston wins that game against Indy. And
yeah.
There you go. Knocks the Colts out.
Yeah, and Miami, they're missing. Unfortunately, I don't know why they were playing Bradley Chubb late in a game where it was already lost, but Bradley Chubb got injured. I believe he tore his ACL.
He did.
So he's out for the year, and they're now down their two best pass rushers, him and Jalen Phillips. That being said, I just think with how well Fangio coaches that defense, I'm not going to rule out that they don't beat Buffalo. And like I said, I think there is a real opportunity for Buffalo to be left in the cold. I really do believe that.
Another dashing season for Bills fans. All right, NFC, let's look at that side of the coin. The Niners are 1, of course, Cowboys 2, Lions 3, Eagles 5, Rams 6. Currently in the next 2 are the Bucks and the Packers. Do you like either one of those, both of those, or do you like somebody else to slide in there? And there's 4 other teams that still have a shot with the various combinations that could happen on Saturday and Sunday.
I don't like the Bucks. Baker's had a good year for him. I think he's restored some of his pizzazz. He's had a good year. I don't like the Bucks though. There's nobody really out of those top 4 or 5 that I have any faith in. They just have their weaknesses are glaring for the most part.
It's a rough bunch, isn't it? It's a rough bunch.
I think the one thing that's really helping Tampa though is Tampa plays Carolina.
Yeah,
this week. So and New Orleans plays Atlanta. And again, every season has these multiple teams like Atlanta. It depends on what week. I mean, you look at what the Atlanta did to the Colts 2 weeks ago, and then for them to then the next week against Chicago just get railroaded for the most part.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, there's a chance New Orleans loses that game, even though they're at home, because Atlanta. It depends on if Arthur Smith decides to feed his best running back in Bijan Robinson and not like try to sprinkle in Cordell Patterson. Look, I like Tyler Algier, but like it's just like, all right, you gave all this draft capital, or you have this high draft capital you put in Bijan Robinson. Just give him 20 touches. It's like what are we doing? I mean, we misfired at quarterback. Anyway, it is at Green Bay.
Yeah.
But just the way the Bears are playing right now, and even though I do believe Jordan Love has, regardless of what happens if they don't make the playoffs, Jordan Love and the progress this offense has made, This is a win for Green Bay this year, regardless if they make the playoffs. So, hopefully, even if they lose, Packers fans still feel happy because all those guys on offense are young and they got it. The problem is they gave up 30 points to the Panthers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Chicago's offense, while not like a world beater, is much better than that Panthers offense. So, and who knows? I mean, I know he's a local guy. You look at what Jair Alexander did in that Carolina game. I mean, I don't know where mentally some of those players are on defense.
Crazy.
Obviously, Joe Barry's been a mess, and a lot of Green Bay Packers fans were shown to be right where they felt he should have been let go after last season, and he was retained, and shockingly the defense didn't get any better under another year of his tenure. But I see a good chance for Chicago to win that game. So.
Plus, it saves a couple of jobs, possibly Justin Fields, like we mentioned before, but also Coach Eberflus probably stays aboard if the Bears beat the Packers on Sunday.
Barring something stupid where they get completely pantsed against Green Bay, I think Eberflus is a lock to come back at this point.
He's a lock. All right, Lugs, before we go, we got to switch gears now. On January 8th, we will have the College Football Playoff Championship. The Michigan Wolverines versus the Washington Huskies. How do you like that game, and how's it looking to you?
Well, I have to admit, I thought it would be Alabama, Texas, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But Michigan, Washington, it has no pizzazz for me personally. And for a lot of people, the ticket prices fell 1,500%. Ticket prices fell 1,500%. So I guess my only thing would be, it would just be to hopefully that Washington would make Jim Harbaugh swallow his jaw. That would be the only thing that I would be watching out for, and yeah, that I got no dog in
love.
that fight.
Well, the future, both Big Ten teams going at it because they'll both be in the Big Ten next year.
Yeah, I'm excited because I can root for either team. I have a lot of friends that are Michigan, so I'll be happy for them. And then obviously, even though I understand he now will say he's from the University of Washington, but
Yeah.
Penix had some great years at Indiana. The COVID year, he was exceptional. And also their head coach was there, DeBoer. That's why Penix went to the University of Washington. It was because of DeBoer. He was their OC. So, I'll be fine with Washington. And to be fair to Lugs' point, the tickets really dropped mainly because – and again, I'm glad they've been so successful, mainly because of Washington. Because I get that Texas is one of the top brands, Alabama's one of the top brands, but Michigan's essentially at least on the same level as Alabama. Maybe not Texas, but again, I don't think anyone's on maybe the tier of Texas. But it didn't drop because of Michigan making the championship game. It was more so Washington being, a Pac-12 team that has, died out. And again, it's funny, like we talked about, the one running joke that through the tenure of this podcast has been slipping on the banana peel. Would there be a greater banana peel for the Pac-12 to win a championship and then fold?
I love it.
That'd be the perfect end to the running gag. So.
I like Penix. I think he'll play on Sunday next year. I don't know why more people aren't talking about him as a good quarterback option in the draft, but I think he takes it to old Jim Harbaugh and he, cries in his Cheerios and go gets the job where, fellas? Chargers?
Yeah, I think the only thing that gives me pause is as great as Penix has been, and I do believe he has been great. Like Pac-12, when you look at the overall rankings of pass defenses, the only pass defense that was really good this year was UCLA. And in terms of schedule, unfortunately, they did not play UCLA. So they played a lot of suspect, even including Texas. Texas had some good parts to their defense. Their secondary was not a part of those good parts. So Michigan is one of the better secondaries statistically. Again, we never know with there being that many teams. Particularly when you play Iowa, every passing defense looks a lot better statistically after playing Iowa. So,
and Lugs, I told you, anybody who has a former Louisville coach involved, Texas, Craig Thorpe, Petrino at Arkansas, John L. Smith, Michigan State, we forgot that one. Anybody connected with anybody, U of L former coach Charlie, they're not going to win and get into the CFP final. That's all I'll say to you. Go ahead. Yeah, they're not going to make it.
Well, I just want to say that Herb Street was pointing out that the Michigan defensive backfield seemed to be knowing where the plays were going. Do you think it was a little play stealing? Because guys would be doing turn-ins and then go, and the Michigan State Michigan wouldn't buy into any of the fakery. They all just ran long, and that's why they were there intercepting or knocking passes down. So
no guys in a trench coat with looking at stuff with binoculars. Nobody like that.
That could be the reason, and it could be because I believe the OC who went to Washington this year, who I believe Alabama was trying to get, and they missed out on him. They got Tommy Rees, and again, Alabama's had some great moments this year, but in general, their offense has been up and down. maybe the play calling is so simple that maybe Michigan just was able to read what they were doing. Because I'm not saying in time, maybe Tommy Rees doesn't become a better play caller. I'm just saying maybe it's play calling. I'm not going to – considering the scrutiny that Michigan's dealt with, I'm not worried about them stealing sides. I think Alabama – has had a good season, but let's be fair. Even though they did beat Georgia, which was a great win, they barely beat a mediocre Auburn team. They lost by double digits to Texas at home early in the season. Like, they weren't as great as what they appeared. And also, again, SEC year in, year out is usually the best conference, but let's be honest, this year it was down. So,
yeah, Big Ten football is where it's at, baby.
Well,
Let's
and
go.
I was just going to say another sort of odd factoid. Mark Stoops makes more money than 3 of the other top 4 coaches in the playoffs. The only one that makes more money is Saban. So take from that what you will.
It was crazy. What team was it? It was Texas A&M was trying to get him. It was like, why would he leave?
No
as
reason.
long as he goes
Well, I think
7-5 and gets to go to Gaylord Music City Bowl or Gator
6
Bowl,
and 6,
like,
baby.
he's
eligible.
gonna be making money in the UK.
But I think that was a done deal until the fan base heard about it, and there was so much, just hatred for that idea that they rescinded the offer.
Well, I think for both sides, would you all agree? More so for Stoops' side, that's a bullet dodge. Like, he's going to be able to maybe, if he wants to, probably coach at UK for another 10 years without getting too much scrutiny, because even though they want the football team to do well, it's mainly a basketball, where Texas A&M, clearly Jimbo was bad. I'm not going to defend Jimbo, but I think Texas A&M's fan base is a little unrealistic on what they should be. I'll put it that way.
Just because of Patrick.
Well,
That's it.
I'll say this about that. A buddy of mine who is just an outrageous UK fan, when I said they should replace Stoops, he said, "You don't know what it was like for all those years before Stoops. They're happy with a 6-6, 7-5 season. They're perfectly happy."
It's true.
And I think to be fair to Stoops, I think this was a down year. I think what he's done over the last few years is more indicative. Now, are they like a double-digit win team? No. But I think most years, albeit how good the East is, and obviously that's going to go away. And maybe with the merger or the additions of Oklahoma and Texas, it drops a little bit. They still should win like around 8 games, or they should have the opportunity to win 8 games or 7 games a year. So,
Well, we'll find out next year. All right, fellas, anything else to wrap up the big broadcast tonight?
Rocket.
I just want to say real quick is I'm really looking forward to Aaron Rodgers, our favorite punching bag. I really hope Disney really backs Jimmy Kimmel and they really go after him for, again, like him just wanting to stay in the spotlight, and maybe him opening his mouth is finally going to cost him muy guapo. So
I love it. All right.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be released like Friday. I think that Epstein list is going to be released, so we'll know for a fact. Yeah.
All right.
Jimmy Kimmel has enough money of his own to take that to court.
yeah.
Time will tell. Stay tuned. This has been another edition of Sports and Other Stuff, brought to you in part by Austin Chiropractic. Kind of like this cough I have tonight. Remember the 5 most dangerous words? Maybe it'll go away. Get in, get no pain with Austin Chiropractic today. We've got a fella working there tonight. What's that guy's name again?
That would be Fish. And since this is the week in 1956 that actor, producer, director, lately crazy man Mel Gibson was born, Fish will host a Melathon beginning Saturday at 1 p.m. The big small screen will light up with a host of Gibson classics, including Road Warrior and the entire Lethal Weapon series. There will be intermissions when everyone can chow down on Roger Sparky Taylor's famous hot barbecue. Admission is $20 with all proceeds going to benefit the Gibson Foundation for Wayward actors. Come on down.
The Mellathon with Roger Sparky Taylor. All the hits keep playing here. This has been Sports and Other Stuff. We'll be back next week. So long for just a while. Thanks for listening.